Hey, what's going on, DDO players? Axel here. So today we're going to talk about the Twilight Forge, which is one of DDO's most complicated raids. I would say the most complicated in the game. We're going to go over how I was able to solo it recently. You can solo it with a very specific build. So we're just going to talk about the raid and how I was able to do that. This is the most complicated raid in the game, but with the right build, you can learn it yourself doing it entirely solo. This is something you might want to consider doing just so you can learn the raid and experience all the parts of it. It's also a nice feather in your cap to say that you have actually, soloed DDO's most complicated raid. So to do this, I used a first life iconic, so it's not like I used a twinked up character or anything with tons of past lives and tons of gear. I had no gear. The only gear I used was a lockpick item, a swim item, and if not a construct, underwater action item. I did run through Into the Mist on this first life, new first life iconic, to get a free Barovian weapon, just so I had some better DPS, but that's all I did. That's all I used. And I also didn't level the character any. I did this at level 15. This is on normal. You'll probably want to level your character a bit if you want to complete elite solo, but at level 15, I think normal is going to be plenty challenging. But with this raid, in doing something like this, it's more about doing it to learn the raid and to say you did it, rather than to try and complete it elite to get the favor. And plus, with Twilight Forge, the challenge of this raid is not the strength of the mobs. It is knowing how to do all the different parts of it, notably the two big puzzle rooms. So if you want to see my full run of this solo, I didn't post it on this YouTube channel, but I did post it on my second YouTube channel. So I'll put a link to that below in the description if you want to see my full run. So let's talk about build. So you can do whatever build you want as long as you have some specific things. So you have to have the following on your build. Do whatever you want, but you got to have, first thing, you have to have 5 levels of Monk for Rise of the Phoenix from Tier 5 Shin'Tao. You have to have this to get through the Water Maze solo. You have to be able to self-res. You cannot self-res underwater with the Gibber's Blade, so that does not work. You have to have Rise of the Phoenix from Shin'Tao. Okay, next you have to have the ability to pick locks on your character. You have to have some kind of leap, such as spring attack, or some other similar ability with a somewhat short cooldown. You can't use something like the Caneth Boots Propulsion because it's a long 10-minute cooldown. You need something short because you have to use this quite a lot. I used spring attack when I did this. You need to have a pet to pull levers, so that means you have to have at least 1 level of Artificer, Wizard, Druid, or Dark Hunter. You're going to want a swim item. Yes, this is a situation where having a swim item matters. But you want a swim item so you can go faster underwater, so you can get through the water maze faster. You do need to have some speed so you can make it to the levers to park your pet. You need an underwater action item if you're not a construct. You need some way to KO yourself underwater. So that's either by drowning if you are a fleshy, so if you're a non-construct, you can do that by drowning. But if you are a construct, you need to be able to KO yourself underwater by removing your con items. So you have to get your health down to a certain level before going into the water maze part, and then remove your con item while you're underwater to KO yourself. Because there's actually a specific part to get through the water maze solo. You need to KO yourself in order to get through some gates and get to a certain lockpick gate, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. You also need some way to break breakable doors, so either a sufficient strength stat, a fireball wand, or some other spell that can break doors. You need an okay jump score. You just don't dump your jump on your character, so you have to have some kind of jump score in order to get the black levers. I did it with a 23 jump, so it's not like you need a 40 jump. You just need something. If you don't have that, you may need to use a jump item or spell or potion or something. You need a Featherfall item or spell or Featherfall scroll. A few other things as an aside that you'll want to bring is Lesser Restore potions. The Mind Flayers in Twilight Forge will do charisma damage, so you will want to make sure you get some Lesser Restore potions so you don't get made helpless. You might also want to bring Fire Resist potions for the Lava Dive room if you swim in the lava. The other thing you may want to bring, I had to bring, was Rage potions in order to meet the strength requirements to break the doors down, although there's other ways to break doors down, so maybe you don't need that. And that's about it. I know that's a long list of requirements, but getting through this raid solo is, it takes some, shall we say, cheesy tactics. I'm not going to go through Titan Awakes in this video, just Twilight Forge, but if you want to solo that as well, you're also going to want some kind of ranged DPS for pillars. You want to make sure that you have a balance item. You also want to make sure you don't dump balance, because the Titan's trip effect has a balance check of 35, so you need 35 balance. But okay, that's it. As long as you have these things on your build, you can do whatever else you want. So you can make your build, you know, a melee, which is what I did, a caster, ranged, whatever. I would strongly advise having some good self-healing though, because there's parts where you're going to want to be able to self-heal through the disc hallways without the correct disc. So make sure you do that. You know, you need to have some kind of decent damage as well, because you need to be able to clear, say, for example, the lava room of all those mobs. And shout out to DDO, who put together the build for me that I used in my solo run. I'll put a link below in the description to Aldbar's channel on YouTube if you want to check it out. Okay, so let's start, and we're going to go through the whole raid and explain how I did everything. So the first part, you have hallways with red fences. All you're going to do, just find the levers on the other side of the fences, pull them to advance forward, you know, kill mobs as needed. There's some points where you need to destroy a door, but nothing difficult here, nothing that isn't very easy to solo. Just kill stuff, pull levers, proceed forward. Now, when you get to the point where it splits between purple and green hallways, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take a green disc and go do the tile puzzle room. That's what I chose to do first. So this room has a series of mini tile puzzles, each in their own small rooms. These rooms have doors that will close depending on the tile's direction, and they control whether the bridges through the room are up or down as well. So because of the doors closing and the bridges going up and down, it's, of course, intended to do this as a group, but we can get by that by having a leap ability to cross the platforms and by having a pet to pull levers. So what you're going to want to do is use your spring attack or other leap ability to move along the top platforms as needed, and you need your pet, of course, to park by levers and pull them. I'm not going to go through every single puzzle room one by one. I'm going to instead, since the DDO wiki already has an excellent solo walkthrough with a pet on it, I'm going to link to that, but this will tell you, this walkthrough will tell you exactly what direction to turn every tile in each room. It's not difficult. You just need to turn the tiles in the specific direction, park your hireling, can't have hirelings and raids, park your pets as needed to pull levers. You can also watch me do it in the video of my run. I'll go ahead and link below timestamps as well to that part of my run. So if you just want to go to where I did the tile puzzle, you can watch that. I kind of explained it on the stream VOD there. This room, I'm going to say, will take some practice if you've never done it before, but it really isn't that hard once you spend a little time with it. I would say the first time you try to solo this raid, or the first time you solo this to try to learn it, don't expect to complete the whole raid on your first attempt. Just go in and try to make progress little by little. Like probably on your first run, a good goal is to just go in and complete the tile puzzle room. That's really a good goal for the first time. But it took me, as I was soloing through this, it took me several attempts, and I learned a little bit more of the raid as I went. I just don't expect to complete the whole raid first try. It will take you, this raid is complicated, so it's nothing earth-shattering that you can't learn. It just takes a little bit of effort and a little bit of practice. So after you do the puzzle, after you're done, you're going to make sure you pull the required main lever at the end. This is one of several required main levers you must pull to open the way to the end fight on another part of the map. So the end of the map, there's a series of barriers, and these levers each remove one part of that barrier. So after you're done with the tile puzzle room, you're going to go through the breakable door to the west and grab a blue disc and go down the blue hallway north. You'll then need to clear the lava dive room of enemy mobs and pull the required main lever in the center. So this is the fighting portion of this raid where you need some DPS, some self-healing as well. If you're on a level 15, even on normal, you know, this can be a little dangerous even on normal. The other thing that makes this room very dangerous is you get purple alert instantly, even if you're soloing and trying to kill everything very actively, you'll still get unavoidable purple alert. So that makes this room a bit challenging. So just kill all the mobs and get to that lever. So to get to the main lever, and this is another one of the main levers you have to pull to remove a barrier at the end. To do this, you need to swim under the lava. You can also jump on the fence and over if you prefer that. Next, after all the mobs in the red lava room are dead, we need to prep our character so that it can KO itself underwater by removing its con item. So to do this, we need to get our HP of our character down to about 25. If you're at level 15, I would say about 25 HP is a good place to shoot for. So if you mess this up, Note there is a res shrine in the lava room, so you can run over and res yourself. So you want to do this over where the disc giver area is, kind of right at the beginning of the red hallway. So get your health down to 25, and you want to do this before you pick up a red disc so that you don't have to waste a red disc. So after you get your health down to about 25, we then need to take a red disc so that we can go through the red hallway without taking damage. And also we have to take a red disc so that we can pull the required main lever that's in the red hallway. One thing to note is that to get that red disc, you're going to have to throw away either your blue or green disc. This raid will not let you carry more than 2 discs at a time. You have to throw away discs in order to have one. I mean, obviously you don't have to do that if you're in a party, but solo, you're going to have to throw away discs. Next is the hardest part of the run, which is the underwater maze. So this is where you'll have to intentionally KO yourself underwater and then later res yourself with Rise of the Phoenix. So this is the whole point of us taking Rise of the Phoenix. And you have to do this because the reason you have to KO yourself and then self-res later is because when you're dead, it lets us park our pet at different places as we need to, while still being able to recall back to your soul stone, which lets you basically go through closed gates. So that's why you need to be dead, because you can recall to your soul stone to go through gates that are otherwise you wouldn't be able to get through because they're closed. And so that's why we can't be alive. And we need to be able to res ourselves later on in the underwater section in order to get to a locked gate and just get back alive in general, because we're not going to be close to a res shrine there. Another thing that's really important about this part is you must also summon your pet before jumping in the water, as you cannot summon your pet while in the water. So make sure you don't mess up. I was there during some of my attempts. I forgot to summon my pet before I jumped in the water, so I had to recall. Fortunately, this raid, and one thing I haven't mentioned yet, you can recall and re-enter as much as you want because it doesn't lock out until the very end. So keep that in mind. And also, if you're running this on normal, you can reuse the shrines. You need to make sure before you go into the water, you want to put on your pick lock and your swim items. As I did with the tile room, I'm not going to go over every little step here because it already exists in other videos. So I'm going to link below Aldbar, which he has a great kind of walkthrough of this part. So I'll put his video below with the timestamp. Also put the timestamp for my own video if you would rather watch my video on my second YouTube channel. As you go through the maze, there's specific points you need to park your hireling and specific points where you need to select levers. When it comes to where you KO yourself, there's also a specific spot where you want to KO yourself underwater in order to kind of minimize the distance you need to go and travel while dead. So after you do KO yourself, there's a lot of selecting levers, parking your pet, and getting recall back to your soul stone while still having the lever selected so your pet can pull it. So it's a lot of going to where you need to go, putting down the stand ground thing for your pet, and then selecting the lever, and then getting recalled back while still having that lever selected and triggering it. Now, it is worth noting, if you mess up, deselect the lever, keep in mind that you can use the Q key to select levers through walls. So it's not a big deal. If you miss a target, just use your Q key, look in the general direction, even if you're dead, while dead, it doesn't matter. Look in your general selection, use that Q key to select the levers through the walls. So after you finish the water maze, you'll get to the golem room, kill the range warforged on the ledges with ranged DPS first, and then trigger the golem fight by approaching the ladder, and then kill the golems. So after this, you can do the black levers. And this is probably not how it's intended. This is still how everyone does it in groups these days, it seems like, but this is probably not the intended way to do it. But the way we're going to do the black levers is we're going to jump from ledge to ledge using spring attack or leap of faith or whatever other spring ability you happen to have. But as you can see in the video now, you just need to line yourself up, pull all the black levers. It's not hard. There's 4 of them. Just line yourself up correctly, use your spring attack or leap or whatever, pull the levers. After we're done with that, we have most of the barriers down, but we still need to do the crystal levers. So in the last barrier, each color barrier responds to a crystal. So in order for these colored barriers to come down, someone has to touch it while having the matching color crystal in their inventory. So the order you need to have crystals to get these levers down is red, purple, blue, green, and yellow. So as we mentioned before, you can only have 2 discs in your inventory at once. So this means you'll have to do some running back and forth through the hallways, some backtracking to go back, run back, get discs, and then run back to the barrier to get the barriers down. So you should have a red disc already to clear red. So you should be able to clear that first barrier because we took a red crystal in order before we went into the water maze, right? So you should have a red crystal already. So touch the first barrier, get that down, and then start backtracking. So you must run back and get a blue and purple crystal next. Do that, touch these barriers. Then after that, we only have green and yellow left, so go get a green and yellow and then run back. So another thing to be aware of is that you can render this raid incompletable. Since you can only hold 2 discs at one time, if you make a lot of mistakes and you end up throwing away a lot of discs, you can render the raid incompletable because there are only a total of 6 green crystals, 6 purple crystals, 6 blue crystals, 3 red crystal, and 3 yellow crystals in total. If you destroy more than that, or if you get to that, destroy that total of any of those colors, either by recalling, because when you recall, your crystal is going to be destroyed, or by just dragging it out of your inventory and destroying it in order to swap to a different color, you will render the raid incompletable because you won't have access to a colored crystal to pull the barrier down. So be aware of that. It's not a problem solo unless you just make a bunch of mistakes and grab the wrong crystals constantly, but you don't want to be throwing away crystals constantly. If you have to throw away, you make a mistake, you'll be fine. But if you make a bunch of mistakes, you could surpass the number of, say, red crystals, for example, because there's only 3 available. So if you throw away more than 3 red crystals and you haven't touched the barrier yet, the raid's incompletable. So just be aware of that. For this part also, as you're backtracking here, you don't have to run back. You can also just recall and re-enter. Again, there's not a lockout to the very end. You can also use DDO if you have DDO. So don't worry about that. There may be times as well as you're doing this, you need to self-heal through hallways. And if you're a level 15, they can be deadly. So this is where you need some decent self-healing in order to heal yourself through these hallways. Okay, and that's it. Once you lower those barriers, you'll be able to get through the boss fight. And all you got to do now is kill the Mind Flayer boss. So this raid, it really is not as hard to do solo as it sounds. Anyone can do it normal on a First Life Iconic. You don't need past lives. You don't need even gear. And if you have gear, it's going to make it even easier. Not that much easier because most of the challenge of this raid is just knowing what to do. But you can do it. Don't be discouraged. If you've ever wanted to learn Titan, I hope you guys actually give it a shot and do it. It's worth doing. It's worth having that feather in your cap. And you don't have to have a powerful character do it. You can anyone can roll up an Iconic and do it. It will take some practice for the tile puzzle room and the water puzzle and the underwater maze. So as I said before, don't expect to solo this in your first attempt, but it's really worth it for the experience. Now, as far as Titan Awakes goes, it's also very doable solo, even on a level 15 Iconic. I'm not going to cover that in this video. After I finish my Twilight Forge solo, I did give it a shot, and I unfortunately forgot my balance item, so I kept getting tripped by the electric floor, which caused me to miss several pillars. So I wasn't able to complete because I ran out of pillars. But in a future video, I'm thinking I might give it another shot. If you guys would like me to, let me know. I can cover a Titan solo if you want. Also, if you guys want, I know some people will probably ask about the build I used, and I went over the basics. So you really can create whatever build you want, as long as you do follow the requirements that are listed at the beginning of the video. I actually don't think I would make the same build if I were to do this again. It was more a build that I decided to do because I just prefer two-handed fighting characters. Even though if I could redo this, I would definitely do some things differently. I'll go ahead and post the build below that I used if you just want something quick and don't want a build plan. Again, shout out to DDO for putting that build together for me. But all right, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know what you think. Are you going to give this a shot? Do you like this raid? But yeah, guys, that'll be it for today. Hope you all enjoyed. Have a good one. Take care.